Now we'll put the chain on. Well, I've already put the chain on. We'll cut it to length. I've got the swinging arm set as far in as it'll go on these things here, and I want to show you something here. I got a frame from, where did I get it from? I don't know, somebody I bought it from when I think I was in an auto jumble, and there was a frame and swinging arm. And somebody must have had the chain too tight on one of these bikes. And let's see if you can see this. I've got the camera on autofocus. This is what happens if you have the chain too tight. So much for autofocus. See, I'm an old type photographer. Let me, when I find the little lever, put it on manual focus. Whoops, that's zoom. Wrong ring. There you go. That is what happens when the chain is too tight. See? The wheel pulls and it just rips it off the little pegs. He looks as if he did it twice as well. Didn't learn his lesson. So anyway, be careful you've got the right chain tension. Now of course, we'll put it back on this. There we go. Of course, with a trials bike, particularly with a modified one where we're pretty much stuck where this is, we get a fair bit of difference in sprocket to sprocket as this goes up and down. You know, it would be perfect if this was right on the sprocket line, which is here. So you can see how far away we are. We're getting a two-part movement here. I saw one trials bike, I can't remember who made it, and they actually had two chains. So that one drove from there to here and then the other one drove from there to there. And that way the chain lines were always constant. Seems a bit of overkill for me when all you've got to do is take a little bit of time, and that's why we have the chain tension. So what we're going to do is we're going to set it up moderately slack. See, the chain tensioner will bring that up fine, and that I think is going to be about enough. So let's see where we're going to need. So in that case, we're going to take this off on this one. So we get our chain breaker out. And this time it will work, of course, because this is a much larger pin in the chain. So we put it on. As you're doing this, it sort of is hard and then it suddenly goes easy, which is when it's pushed the little mushroomed end through. And then it's got to do it, and there it goes. Now all it will do is push the actual pivot pin out of the chain. And if you've not moved your fingers when you were sighting which link it was, the chain should be the right length. I hope I haven't moved this off camera. Right, it's taking this a long time to come through. Here it comes, I can feel it at the other end where my finger's on the other side. And then it goes really easy, like that. And just like Paul Daniels, he was from Teesside, you know. We're a very talented lot. There's the pin out. course I've tightened that other one. One of life's little mysteries, isn't it? You tighten it finger tight and then it won't come off. Pull your pin out, voila, and that will go on there, down out of the way. This will come round here, and there's our nice bit of slop. Then everybody knows how to put a link into a chain, hopefully. Except me, of course. Come on. Set you wondering whether the sprocket's the right size, doesn't it? But here it goes. Little plate on. And then our fish, we're going this away. And there it is. And as I say, when that comes up, that'll be just nice. Very good, so there's the chain on. Now we'll go and get the good old bit of cardboard and we're going to make up a template for our chain guard. Cardboard, scissors, pen, all that sort of stuff. Take my glasses off again. Okay, now up at this end we're going to want a little cutout for it to go around the end of the swinging arm. So that's about, because it's going to clear the gusseted corners as well. We're going to make that about 3 inches. Don't forget all these measurements are rough. So about 3 inches in. Now we want it to come down. It's going to be like that. That's there. I guess we want it to be about something like that. Go in there. I'll actually make it less of a curve. It's quite a squarish sort of Okay, that's very nice. Now then, at this end, as the swinging arm goes up and down, we're going to have more movement than here. Because here we've got, let me just have a look through the viewfinder here, because I realise sometimes that I'm talking and you don't know what I'm talking about. This of course is the line through our sprocket. So here, this chain, as the wheel moves up and down, is going to go like that. A lot more so than it is here. So here we can make it pretty close. But here we've got to give ourselves a decent bit of space for the chain to move up and down within the swinging arm. So zoom back. It's all getting very technical, this filmmaking, isn't it? Not as much as some. I've noticed some of the channels I like watching, the people seem to be getting off more now on making the video. Multiple cameras, fibre optic cameras so they can see inside the job. God. So, if we give ourselves about that much there, but about that much there, and didn't bring the ruler with me. Okay. Now we're going to make it about 1 inch, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make this square. Now most of the ones you've seen are rounded, and I used to make them rounded, but the big thing the chain guard is here for, particularly with the BSA engine actually, is to stop the mud coming off the tyre getting into there. Now I rode for a couple of days when I was first building the other bike, before I'd made the chain guard up. It was amazing how much mud came off here, got on the chain immediately took it in and jammed it in behind the sprocket. So much so that at one point it actually jammed it up and the back wheel wouldn't move. So I made a rounded one. But what I found with the rounded one was the mud coming down, it still tends to force it in. Only this time, instead of getting on the chain, it's forcing it between the chain guard and the tyre. Whereas a square one, I suppose actually we should make it a little bit like that. It almost acts as a knife edge to get it off. So instead of making it rounded at the top, I'm going to make it square at the top. And then now I've mentioned it, I might even just put it at a slight angle when we get round to making the brackets. So anyway, let's see what this does for us. So that's going to go in there like thus. Now then, let's see. What shall we do with it? Because it's got to be aesthetically pleasing, you know. We can't just slap any old rubbish on. I think we'll move that forward a bit. Or shall we just take some off the back end? Which is easier? Which is easier? That's going to go there. It isn't actually going to come all the way back here. It's only going to come to here, and then it's going to come down to this mounting point right there. So let's how about if we make that about 1 inch, do you think? Cut that off like that. Let's have a show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we'll do it this way. My wife tells me I talk to myself when I'm working. If she could see me out here with you lot, she'd definitely think it's cracked up. Alright. Should buy myself a longer pair of scissors as well. So if we go in like that, actually that's not bad, is it? What do you think? About like that? Well, actually it's about like that because I had it right for there. So that's going to be like that. I think that's fine. We'll do some nice around all the corners. I've noticed as I watch the videos that one thing I do keep doing is starting to say something and then either pause before I finish the sentence or don't even finish the sentence at all. So all in all, it's bad for you watching yourself after you've been videoed, because you start to say all these things, you think, God, do I really do that? And the answer is, yes you do. So that, I think, is going to be pretty much what I want. So we'll cut that piece first. Now what we're going to do, as you know, we have these two holes through here. We could put a spacer and a bolt in here. We could put a spacer in there. But if we put a bolt in here, the nut is going to be, there isn't a lot of space in here. So what I've done in the past, because there's going to be a little spacer in here, I actually weld the spacer on and thread the spacer, and it acts as the nut. So it drops in behind there, the bolt goes through and it actually screws into that, and that holds it. Now, previously also, I've just bolted this at the bottom, and I found that it's got a little bit too much of that. So what we're going to do this one, we're going to get very clever, and we're actually going to bring an arm down from there to here. So it's bolted sort of front and back. But first of all, we need to cut this piece in some 16th alloy sheet. Yeah, I think that's going to be fine. And then we'll with the rest of my little curvy corners, and I won't forget to do them in the alloy. So there it is. We'll lay that on, we'll cut it out, and then we'll come back and measure up for our spacers, because it won't be all philoloppy like this. So let's go over to the other end of the workshop. Here we are, ready to cut this sheet out. See if you can see this. What I've actually done is I've marked it out, is I've made that about the 16th wider at each side than the template. That's to give me the radius of the bend, so that we don't suddenly make it too thin, too narrow where the chain's going to go. We wanted that inch, so we're going to get that inch. Right, get ready for some noise.
Slot a little bit. Let's see if we can cut these curves. Yeah, a little bit of dressing.
Now we'll do our bends. Now, I always get comments about this. Yes, you could do it with a brake. Yes, you could do it in your press with pieces of angle iron. But that's always assuming you have a brake or a press. We are building our bike in a way that anybody can do it, admittedly with some exceptions. But this is a perfectly effective way of doing it, with aluminium anyway. Bit at a time. Don't try to bend all one end and work along. Bend it the same amount all the way. And with a soft hammer. As Dave at Shed Built Dave mentions, it doesn't stress the metal as much. It does do it a bit. Certainly not as much as using a metal hammer. Okay. It's a lot easier on this table because I have table's not as thick. Okay, so now we're going to bend this one. Should be the easiest way to do it. Can we go around that way? No, I don't think so. Okay, here we go. You'll find with G-clamps, as that just did, when you turn one end, it'll swivel it a little bit. So always make sure you're setting up again and again and again. It's like the old woodworking axiom of measure twice, cut once. Although, as I have pointed out, I can measure a dozen times and it's still the wrong size when I'm cutting wood. Now we might actually need to set these clamps back a little bit. Pity this bar isn't longer. I'm worried about this coming up against the clamp. But we'll deal with that problem if and when it arises. Really fasten it down good and tight. You don't want anything moving. It is moving a little bit. I never like to bang it up, I always like to bang it down towards the table. You almost can't fast. Did I press the record button? Yes, I did. See, I'm getting paranoid about that now. bit of finishing just to get it exactly right. Basically there it is. Now what I'm going to have to do is put another piece in here. I might even shape that up. I might even shape that a little bit down here. But basically there we are. So let me finish these couple of little bends off and then we'll go back over to the bike. Right. Next thing we're going to do is mark ourselves a couple of holes. And I find about the easiest way to do this is to just run the drill through. Particularly if you've got one of these little pointed drill bits. And I do one at a time. So there we've got our hole. Let's see what we've got. There. Goes in there. About that. Oh, left the drill through there. Anyway, I'm going to drill the other hole and then we'll see about making the little threaded spaces. I'm probably going to get my arm in the way here, but I've already drilled a piece of 1/2 inch alloy with the correct tapping size for 1/4 inch fine. And I don't normally show lathe stuff because, hell, you probably learn the wrong way to do it from watching me. Plenty of better people to watch. But one thing, if you have a lathe, and I don't know if you do this or not, but it's really good for tapping, getting it straight. You keep the piece you're tapping in the chuck, you put your tap to it, and then you use a center in the little hole in the end of the tap holder. And that way, as you turn the chuck, you wind in, you keep everything absolutely straight. Even if you just use it to get it started and then you put it in the vise or something. But this is the way I do it because I'm hopeless at tapping things. They end up going really awry. So basically what you do is you just, as you turn in this with the tail stuck, you just keep moving forward, keep the pressure on. A little bit of lubricant for the tap. And then when you want to wind it back out, you just go in reverse. So we've got our piece cut to length and tapped, and I just wanted to show you this. Gave this a good going with this stainless steel brush, but also some acetone. So even with the brushing, you see how much rubbish is left there. So what we're going to do next, if we can, is we're going to put this on here. And we're going to screw it on, and that'll hold it while we weld it. Easier to hold that got our paper towel tapped in there. So there it is. Now we're just going to weld that, and then we'll bolt it up and we can measure more exactly how big this one's going to be, and then we'll do exactly the same with that. Then when these go on, that will be the mounting. Do you know, this is now so stiff, I don't know if I'm going to put another piece on there, piece down here, but we'll see when it's finished. So let's get it welded up. Now we've got both of these welded on. Give it a bit of a polish up. So this will go in like so. And I've used fine threads for these to give us a bit more grip. It's in there. And those in there. As I mentioned, the forming this way has made it really a lot more rigid. We've got our gap down the back there. Let the space for the chain. There we go. Now we're going to fit the back mudguard. Now of course we already have the mounting points, the two at the top and the one at the back, but we now have an exhaust pipe sticking in here and the chain guard, so we're going to have to cut a couple of little pieces out. Now you may remember right at the beginning I mentioned trying to find some sort of fixed datum point when you're doing things like this, and for this we have this one here. This is our mounting, and we've already got a hole to match that in the mudguard, so it's a perfect point to measure from. We can measure across to how far we are to either of these things, and also we can find out how much below they are. So we can measure across, measure down, and we can work out exactly where we need to cut the mudguard for both of these things, and then when that bolts up to that mounting there, everything should be fine, he says. So let me make the measurements and make a little drawing, and then I'll show you the drawing, and then we will make the cuts in the mudguard. We get this is the hole in the mudguard, so there's sort of the centre line of the mudguard. Now the chain guard is 1 7/8 across from there, and it's 5/8 down, so we're going to have to cut a piece like this out of there. The exhaust pipe is 2 1/8 to the pipe, and it's only about 1/4 inch below that line. Then the pipe's 1.5 inches. So we're going to have to measure across. We know that's going to be there. We can measure the other 3/4 inch to mark that. Then we can just cut it out. We can mark this sort of down 1/4, then down 1.5, and then mark these two, and we'll see how much of the circle we actually have to cut out. So let me transfer those markings to the mudguard, and then we'll make our cuts and keep our fingers crossed that things work out. There's the mudguard marked out from our drawing, but remembering of course that this is the back end of the mudguard, so it's reversed on there. This is the exhaust side and this is the chain guard side when the mudguard is this way around. So with fingers still crossed, I'm going to cut these out. Now these plastic mudguards you can cut with all sorts of things. That I'll probably just use a pair of like tin snips, but curves, what I've found for that is I have a little coping saw, you know, for woodwork, fretwork, that sort of stuff, and this material saws nicely with that, so I can actually cut curves. So let me cut it, and then we'll move on again. I've made my cuts. I actually went higher here because it struck me that the chain guard is going to move up and down with the swinging arm. So I used, could you see that? Probably not. I used a pair of tin snips, as I say, good old fret saw. So let's see how close we got. There's those lined up. So there we have our cutout for the exhaust and for the chain guard. So let's pop a couple of bolts in just to hold this in place. One there. One in there. And one round that side. Let's see what it looked like through the viewfinder. And there it is, fitted in. We of course don't really want the mudguard to be too close. I might just ease a corner off there because the exhaust is getting hot and it's plastic mudguard. Two things don't go together. So I'll just tidy that little bit up. The last thing I'm going to do for the mudguard is, let me raise you up a little bit. I'm going to make a piece of sort of 1/4 inch by 1 inch alloy strip that's going to go, it's actually going to go on the inside, but it will go from one side here to the other side just to give us a little bit extra support in between these two extended mudguard mounts. So clean the mudguard up, make that couple of little nibbles, and then I can bolt that in. I was going to mention at the beginning, and I'm sure you've noticed it, that I took the wheel out to do this. It's a lot easier. And also, I'm probably not going to use the little mushroom cap bolts for that there, because if you want to take this off, it's difficult to get an Allen key in there, but you can get a spanner in there from the bottom or from the side if you want to take the mudguard off. Okay, so let's do the last couple of little bits and then we can put the wheel back in. Now 1/4 inch aluminium takes some forming. You certainly couldn't just put this in the vise and batter it. It would spring back. So what I'm using is just an ordinary shop press in between a couple of these, and then when you want to start getting the curve in, what I've got is a piece of steel round. It's about what, 1/2, 3/4 of an inch, and I milled a flat on the top for the press to come against, and then you just put it in and you press it down and it'll start to form a curve. You won't be pressing in a single area or with just the two edges. So of course this very much is a little bit at a time job. You know, for those people who have the right equipment, it's nice and easy, but the rest of us do it a little bit at a time. So we'll get this right. Make sure we have our two pieces parallel there so that we don't start to bend a twist into it. And as you can see, it's starting to form a curve. And all we've got to do is just keep working at it till we get the curve we want, fitting it to the mudguard, pressing it a bit more, etc. So here's our curved piece made up. I've just rounded the ends, drilled it. So put this up. One hole there. Washer, nut, and through the other side. And my God, the holes lined up. Did you see that? Yeah, I'm getting good at this. I start doing it for a living. Except you've got to be able to keep all your tools. It's that. And that. Lot stiffer.